By now, you'll let me know in a gentle way whether or not you like this series. I'll do a few more of these and wait to hear back from you. And remember, this is King Smarty speaking. I'm just, you know, reading it. The early years, birth and the nature of my arrival. I didn't arrive by ordinary birth. My coming was through light conception directly orchestrated by Source. It was an infusion of energy and consciousness that shaped me from the first moment. I was born that way. When I entered this world, it was a higher consciousness stepping into a human form. I was born in Puerto Rico on the Day of the Saints. That timing was deliberate, chosen by Daddy. My birth was in a location where the dark forces weren't looking. My bloodline is ancient and off-world, designed to guide humanity and hold divine order. I've carried that same lineage through many lives. I am literally the first consciousness present on every planet. Daddy forms. We'll hear more about that in book 3. In another age, I walked as Yeshua ben Joseph. When dark forces surrounded Jerusalem, I entered this life in Puerto Rico off their radar, yet still on schedule for this very important mission. My mother, Barbara, went into the ocean the day before I was born. She told me that the water changed color. It was bright, luminous, alive. The waves shimmered in gold and blue, pulsing like breath. Above Earth's dome, the golden cube, a floating palace of light, hovered near her. At the instant of my birth, the golden cube infused me with light, bringing about a higher consciousness. Of course, we didn't know anything about that at the time. Years later, when people ask how such things could happen, I told them matter obeys thought. I've proved it more than once, shifting my appearance to show that matter follows awareness. With Daddy's will, anything is always possible. Family background and early environment. I grew up in a multiracial Hispanic household. Our family moved from Puerto Rico to Lancaster, Pennsylvania when I was about 3 or so. When our family moved to Lancaster, I met a different world. Over time, our community turned harder, faster, with everyone fighting to get ahead. It was what I call the dog eat dog environment, which is so prevalent in the world today. Today, everyone wants to get ahead no matter what they have to do to get there. That contrast taught me what kind of life I wanted to build, one based on peace, not struggle. In our house, we take care of each other. That belief became my compass, and I still live by it, although I take care of them now. There were lots of people in that area, and I watched everyone struggle and do what they had to do to survive. I was always independent, even at an early age. I'd go all over the city alone and not get lost. One time, I walked about 20 minutes or so and went to the barber shop. I had some coins in my pocket and showed them to the barber. He called my dad and said, "Do you know where your son is? He's here with me." What he really wanted was enough money to pay him for my haircut. Anyway, I went all over there by myself and I didn't have any fear at all. Abilities and first clues. My mind has always worked differently. I saw things from multiple angles at once, even when they were happening. A car would pass by and suddenly it felt like I was inside it, seeing the people, the interior, even the view from their seats while watching it drive away. I even knew what they had in the car. I didn't know other people couldn't do that. It just came naturally, and I used the information I saw when it did. That ability kept me out of trouble more than once because I always knew what was going on around me. Those abilities showed up long before I had words for them. I could look at a moving car and describe everything inside with total clarity, experiencing both perspectives at the same time. I did this a lot. As I've said, I didn't know what this ability was, and I didn't know that others didn't see things the same way. It just seemed natural. Eventually, I learned it was a form of remote viewing. I wasn't in a meditative state. I was just going around doing what I do. Even as a kid, I made small UFOs out of paper plates because something in me already recognized what they were. I was fascinated with UFOs. And when I played video games, I'd win easily, like my mind was already a step ahead. I'd go right to the top levels of the game where it'd take my friends much longer to play the same game. Everything seemed easy to me. Tests later measured my IQ at over 250, one of only five in the country. Three of those people are now gone, and one was taken into a secret space program. For the testing and completed the tasks with ease. I never viewed my intelligence with pride. It was simply proof that higher dimensional thought can function through a human brain. I might have ended up in the secret space program too, except I didn't follow rules very well. I never did what they wanted unless it made sense. I didn't care for school or following anyone else's rules. You might say I had an attitude problem where school, or really any authority, was involved. Daddy kept me safe even though I didn't really know him then like I do now. School never interested in me. I had an uncooperative attitude, meaning that I didn't care what the teachers wanted me to do or what they threatened me with. I did things my own way. Reading and writing didn't interest me at all either. I later realized that this was because all around the universe we use telepathy and not the written word. Out throughout the universe, we don't talk, which is slow. We just convey what we want. Why bother with reading and writing when we can connect telepathically? But at that time, even though I was young, I didn't comply with what the teachers or administrators wanted. I did my own thing, learning what I wanted to learn. Eventually, they placed me in IU 13, a special education program in Pennsylvania. And within weeks, I jumped from fifth grade to seventh grade. Still, the structure bored me. I left school early around age 16 to work and learn on my own terms. The street taught speed and focus, but I never stopped studying. I just refused to let anyone limit what I could explore. I spent time learning the types of topics that interested me, and I continue to learn to this very day. I don't know why I'm taking so long with this. I could talk faster, but for some reason, I'm trying to keep it calm today. All right, independent study and early design. My mind worked like a computer, processing all that was scientific, spiritual, and mechanical all at once. I sketched blueprints and notes about technologies I didn't yet understand, systems that would later evolve into energy transfer, holographic healing, and quantum design. My learning mixed intuition and ideas with experiments and other inspirations. This became the foundation of everything I would later build. As I said, I had a profound interest in UFOs throughout my life. I played video games and won them easily, going right to the top or the very end. Then I look around at what others were doing and notice that they had cool outfits, tools, and different experiences on the same games. I learned to replay the game, taking a little bit more time, looking around so I didn't miss a thing. Crucial point. I wanted to get everything out of the game and not miss any of the experience. That philosophy is what we're doing now. We're taking our time so we don't miss anything, and we'll experience more rewards along the way to the completion of the mission. I was 6 or 7 and eventually tested, which is when they finally realized that I had a higher than average IQ. They took me into a small room, and there was a variety of pieces on the table. I was supposed to figure out what to build, assemble the pieces, and get them to work without any instruction. There'd be parts to make a little car, which I'd hook up to the computers and have running, or a mechanical type of hand. There would also be hairballs that would be filled with pieces of, say, a mouse. I dissect the hairball, take the mouse pieces out, and assemble them on a manila piece of paper. The task would always vary, and there would never be any instructions. There would be different types of tests to see what I could build or use tools to see if I could create the object that they wanted, and I always figured out what was desired. There were also hearing tests. I'd have to indicate when I'd hear sounds in a headset, and they were always shocked when I'd hear these sounds. Most people don't hear those sounds as they're out of our normal hearing range. For me, it wasn't that I was always hearing the sound, it was the vibration that I felt. I felt the energy shift, so I knew that the sound was being produced. Other tests would have me guess what shape, number, or symbol was on the back of a card and that sort of thing, like you might see in the movies. That was always easy for me. Passing the test was easy. As I said, they never told me what I was supposed to do. I just figured it out. I always had a voice in my head which I listened to. I didn't realize that others didn't have that voice. I thought that it was normal. Later, I realized that it was Daddy, but at the time, it was just part of me. Knowing who I truly am came in layers. The intellect and the abilities were signs. The voice was Daddy. The voice of Daddy was confirmation. I knew I was different. I just didn't know why. I had a knowing inside that I was supposed to do something bigger. I always had a strong intuition through my life and a strong value of justice. Of course, we generally end up as a product of our environment. I did all the human things, made human mistakes, learned, and eventually got into trouble later on. Even in chaos, my intellect never left. I watched how people organize themselves, even in the broken corners of society. I saw how hierarchies formed among those less fortunate trying to survive. I saw the systems and institutions, how they treated people. Addiction and poverty weren't random, I realized. They were manufactured outcomes, symptoms of deeper, darker designs. I studied how people interacted, how they treated one another, and how the institutions and other systems treated everyone. The lessons were painful, but they became the foundation of what I later teach about control and liberation, how darkness works both spiritually and structurally. I knew then that I wanted more than what others accepted. As I said, my family looks out for one another. We take care of each other. I did believe in God and prayed and talked to Him when I needed help. I believed in Jesus at the time, but for some reason I went right to God when I needed something. We learned about the Bible and religious teaching, and I always talked to God directly. I'm the oldest in my family of six kids. I always had a lot of aunts, uncles, and cousins around me. Still does. There was always a lot of activity and drama going on. No matter how bad things looked, help always showed up just as it was needed. I knew it wasn't coincidence, but I didn't understand the bigger picture just yet. Daddy was still watching, still guiding. I've said before, if I hadn't lived those years, I could never have understood humanity's pain. You can't heal what you don't feel. The streets gave me that education.